Hey everybody, it's me Laura, and today we're going to go ahead and create my pair of rose wine glasses. And right here I'm rolling out a couple of balls of red clay, and what I'm really going to do here is I'm going to create two roses, and they need to be fairly close in size, almost like you can't tell the difference if one is a little bigger than the other. They need to be almost as close to the same size as possible. So right here, I'm going to go ahead and create a couple of rose buds and then add on the corresponding petals to each bud. Now, you're going to find that these roses look an awful lot alike. When they show you how to do rose buds in polymer clay, a lot of times they're all very different, and that's very true. But for me, especially in this instance, I want to have it matching. I want to have it as close to matching as possible. So I have, like I show right here, I have like 5 balls, and then I flatten all of these out and I create the petals to each rosebud. Now I do this, it's very much a patterned kind of rose, but it's very nice because I can make sure that whatever I put on one wine glass is going to look almost exactly the same like thing on the other wine glass. Now, you're probably wondering, well, why not use a mold then? Why not use a mold? Well, the thing is, when you use a rose mold, and I do not like molds in this regard, I don't like to use a mold when it comes to roses because it looks doesn't look right. That's being kind. Sorry, it's just my opinion, but I really prefer and I really strongly encourage you to try and do and create your own roses by hand. Okay, so I wanted to go ahead and bring in my ruler there. It's 3/8 of an inch when it comes to the diameter of the ball size of these roses, but I would say, it doesn't have to be that size. You can make your roses smaller. You can make them larger. It's really, truly up to you. The idea here is trying to keep them all looking like the same thing. So what you're going to do, this is why I love my patterns. This is what I call my 3-petal rose. And look how almost identical these two roses are to each other. So if you need to, go back and look at my rose video that I had done a little while ago. Check that out and see how I do all of my roses. Okay, so right here I'm bringing in my green, and we're going to go ahead and create our stems for our roses. And I'm going to go ahead and create a couple of little balls, and each ball, I want to say, I think these were about 1/2 inch in diameter. I really wanted to make sure this was kind of a large ball of clay. I mean, look at that. That is pretty big. It's a little over half maybe. Anyway, I took that green and then I'm going to roll it out into a log, and that log will be about 1.5 inches in length. And then I'm going to flatten that log, and it's going to create a nice, that's a nice amount of green, and we're going to wrap that right around the bottom of our red rose. Now you might notice here when I'm wrapping this around, there's kind of a little bit of a pocket or a little bit of area. Just push in on that green until it's solid, and then roll it between your hands and have the rose upside down. This way then you don't destroy the rose, and you could create that nice long stem I've been talking about. Then use your finger to go ahead and elongate out that particular stem. Okay, so that looks pretty good, and it measures out to almost 6 inches in length. Wow. Okay, so we need that thing though to be that long, and so we're going to take and do the same thing to this other rose, and we want that stem to be about as long as the last one. Okay, so we're bringing in our wine glasses now, and you'll notice, I mean, they roll everywhere, right? So this is where your scrap clay comes in so handy. Take a piece of scrap clay and place it right under the very bottom rim and just sink it right into it. Do it with both sides or both glasses. This way then they don't roll around on your surface and you can physically work on them. Yay! So again, I'm taking my 2 roses, and remember, we want to go ahead and match these up as close as possible. So I'm going to take my 1 rose and I'm going to place it on my stem, and I'm going to just take the green stem on the rose, and I'm going to wrap it around the stem on the glass. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to match up that other rose to the one that we just did. Now, I thought about going the same direction, but I thought, no, let's go ahead and make it kind of mirror each other. So they'll be opposites. It's more pleasing that way. And so I went ahead and I'm like, okay, where was that at? So I measured this out on the glass where that rose landed. And it was about 2.5 to a little bit more from the very lip of the glass. So from here, I decided, okay, let's go ahead and measure on the other glass. And it was a little bit a little bit tricky, but I got it. And then I just marked it with a little black mark. And if you're worried about that Sharpie marker coming off, don't worry about it. You can use your little X-Acto knife to take it off. Heck, even a little bit of Comet just to, erase it or whatever. It's not that hard. Anyway, I use that as my guide. I'm placing my other rose down. And once I have that rose down on the glass where I need to have that placement, I'm wrapping its green stem around the stem of the wine glass. Now, as I wrap this green stem around the stem of the glass, I'm trying to make sure that it's about as identical to the other one as possible. Notice I kind of curled it at the very end there. I like that little feature. I thought, yeah, that would be kind of a nice way to tie it off on both of my glasses. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and bring in some more of my roses, some of my smaller roses. If you want to find out how I make these, go and check back on that other rose video. It will go through all the different types I make. And this is what I call my 2-petal rose. So I'm just cutting off the ends, and then I'm going to add in my green to create a stem. Now the stems on these particular ones are not going to be as long as the first one, but that's okay because they're going to tie in really nicely in just a moment. Okay, so as you can see, the stems are definitely shorter, and we're going to place this kind of tucked in just underneath that larger rose on the one side, and let the stem just follow the original longer stem that you have going there. Once it just kind of, it'll just start to taper off. It will look really nice when that happens. You won't even notice it. It'll just be like, oh, that was meant to be that way. And I'm doing the exact same thing. I'm mirroring it. Remember that. I'm mirroring these where the placement of these roses are being done. Once I have that done, I'm going to bring in another ball. I'm going to roll that out into a little log, and then I'm going to curl it up into one of my rosebud types. Then I'm going to go ahead and take some green, place it along the bottom of the rosebud, and this will create my stem, which then I can place on the wine glass. Okay, so you'll notice here that my rosebuds are, they're a little long on their stem. It was like 4.5, I want to say. Yeah, about 4.5 inches. And the reason for that was because I wanted to place that rosebud up above the larger rose. And so I wanted to make sure, though, that the stem itself would tie into the other part of it, without just dropping off dramatically. And I didn't want it to have too short where it would hide and it wouldn't show up. So I wanted to bring that in. Again, that rosebud is going right around. I'm tucking it in behind the larger rose, and then repeat that on the other wine glass. Okay, so this is my favorite part of this whole video. I like adding in metal or, jewelry, that old jewelry that I've got. So right here, these are some pair of hoop earrings. I don't wear hoop earrings, not a hoop person. And so I thought, but I like the circular part to these hoop earrings. And I do that with a lot of my hoop earrings. I like to just cut off that little stem that goes into the ear and then use the gold hoop to tie in to my wine glass. You guys are gonna really love doing this sort of thing. Just take old jewelry. If you have to, go to your thrift store and find a few metal, earrings that you're like, oh, that looks really cool, and tie it into things like this. Again, I had another little rhinestone piece. I'm also placing that into my design. And again, the way I've got this, we'll go ahead and mirror it on the other side. All right, here we're going to go ahead and add in my green leaves. And you'll notice that that was about like 1/4 of an inch. Looks like most all of them were about that size. And I rolled out these balls ahead of time. I wanted to kind of get past that part. And then I'm going to flatten it out, pinch the point, use my needle to drag the line up the center, and then I'm going to go ahead and add an angle right there. I'm adding in my other lines, creating more of a detail to my leaves. My roses are fairly plain. All my other flowers I like to use lines, but my roses are fairly plain. So again, I'm just going to add in a more detailed leaf. That'll give more attention and more detail to the whole project. So I'm going to do that with all of these leaves, and then I'm going to place these into the wine glasses. I just wanted to mention right here that to make these leaves really stick in here, I use my needle tool to really kind of push down onto the very end part, the blunter part down there underneath that jewelry piece. It keeps it in place and it kind of meshes into the rest of the clay. And I'm trying to do that with both of these here. Remember, you're going to mirror it. So you're going to make sure that if you put one leaf down there, you got to put it on the other, and so on. Creating this next leaf, I'm not going to add in a bunch of detail. I'm just going to go with the one line up the center. And I use this with my roses as like the bud leaf, or the one that's closest to the rose, like it's a new leaf. And so this is why I only give it that one, particular line, because it's a new leaf coming out. Okay, here we have the roses and the glasses put together up to this point with the leaves. If you wanted to, you could stop right here and not do anything more, but I'm going to go ahead and add in a few more little details. Okay, so we're going to bring in some of my red clay, and I'm kind of just making two tiny little berries. That's really what I'm going to be doing here. And I'm going to place that right at the bottom of that leaf. It really grabs a little bit more attention, and it looks so sweet there. I love it. And then I'm going to also probably bring in my knitting needle. I'll make a point, so this way then I could put a rhinestone in that one. I'm also bringing in my black clay here. This was very, I thought about it. I thought I could go with the red, but I thought, no, let's bring in another color. I love my neutral colors. Right here. See, I'm making my point. The thing is, if I bring in the black, I can go ahead and add in a nice, really fun feature, especially with the white against that, with the gold. We can add it in, and see, there's a gap there too. I go ahead here. This has been baked now. At this point, it's definitely been baked. And, part of it is because you get to a point where when you're making these glasses, you've got to bake that thing. And then you can add in a few more features later. And this is to the point where I had to go ahead and bake it. So I baked it like 275, I want to say for about 7 to 10 minutes. Go with your recommendations on the packaging. That's how I do it. Once I did that, I had that all glued down. And, I'm using liquid Sculpey, or I should say liquid Superglue. So when you do, you're going to have to watch that glue because it'll run everywhere. Put a little bit down and then hold it kind of horizontal on the glass. Maybe set it horizontal if you can get so. And make sure that the clay part is down when you do. That way then the glue will be right in there with the clay and not running down the stem. That being said, you saw I brought in a big ball of clay. I'm using my ball tool to go ahead and make an indent there. And then I'm going to take just a really nice sweet rose color or a red colored glass pearl, and I'm going to place that right in that black ball. And this just adds in another fun little feature. Okay, so here is the end result of creating my rose wine glasses. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please use it for study and reference. And if you like this video, please like, subscribe, and leave me a comment. I'm always wondering what you're thinking. Otherwise, I am sending out my biggest hugs to each of you, and I hope you have a fantastic day.